Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is not for everyone. I really suspect there's going to be a decent few of you that just cannot get into this game, but honestly, that's okay. Because genuinely for me, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is one of the best games I have ever played. It's one of those experiences that almost ruins other games for you, because yeah, going back to Skyrim after playing this would just feel kind of wrong. Because honestly, a big part of this is what makes Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 so special is also exactly what's going to turn a lot of you off playing this game. RimWorld is my favorite game of all time, and yes, I know bringing up RimWorld in a KCD2 review is kind of bizarre, but bear with me here, because about 15 hours into KCD2, it just kind of clicked for me. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is incredibly similar to RimWorld in that they're both story generators. And there was one quest in particular that really stood out to me as just basically making its own story. No major spoilers in this video, but during this quest, you're locked in a castle. You basically have no items at this point, and oftentimes you're going to start with lower than typical HP. And all the while, somebody that you know is in jail, and we have to save them from jail. And actually, it goes a step further than that. During this, there's an actual in-game timer, as after 12 bells ring, that person is going to be executed.
The third toll. I better get moving.
So in many ways, this is just a nightmare scenario. You only have a few hours to prove this person's innocence, while you have literally no items and are basically stuck relying on whatever skills you've already adopted on that character. All the while, you're locked in a castle and can't even access most of the castle itself, or the guards will come after you. But it's really in moments like these, when you have to do the problem solving, that this game really shines. You have a ton of tools at your disposal to figure out how to get to that solution. So in my case, while locked in this castle, I started to try to make some money. I did odd jobs for the local blacksmith and carpenter until one finally let it slip that, oh yeah, there's this secret tunnel network under the castle that you can utilize to get to other parts of it. They end up telling an entire story about some others who have successfully used this, and then I was able to successfully use this. After finding a torch, but otherwise literally having no items on my character, I was able to sneak into the previously inaccessible section of this castle, but then a giant code read as a guard was nearby. And here again, I have half HP, no items, and my only path forward is really just using stealth to finish off this guard. But now I was in a pretty good spot. I had a full set of armor and even some keys so I can more freely get around, and if it came to fighting, I had some options now. But like I mentioned before, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2's world is incredibly reactive. So unfortunately, NPCs will recognize you if you've stolen their buddy's armor and are wearing it around. At another point in my journey, I broke into this random dude's house, ended up fist fighting him for his armor, only to walk outside and have his wife immediately recognize me, which was tragic because then I immediately lost all of those items. So from past experiences, I knew that, okay, I have to now sneak around the castle if I want to wear this armor, but I did successfully do this, sneaking all the way up to this tower, which was really the only quest objective provided to me, only to discover that once you arrive at the tower, the only man who could prove our innocence is dying. So then I need to somehow craft a potion to save him. Meanwhile, I'm still locked in a castle with limited mobility and I don't know where any of the ingredients are. And this is really where I think the divide will come for a lot of players with this game. Pretty consistently in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, you're in a frustratingly vague scenario. I need to craft a potion, and the game isn't really telling me exactly how to do that. Yeah, you have some clues, and you could definitely get more clues by asking and looking around, but overall in this moment, I was feeling pretty lost. The timer is ticking down until the quest will just outright fail, and it forces you to just kind of figure it out. But the beauty of that process is Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is a game that will consistently reward your experimentation and really just exploring around. So from just wandering about this castle, I ended up finding someone's journal who just happened to lay out the ingredient locations around the castle, and later on by passing a skill check, which I definitely didn't have to save scum to do, I found out some ingredients are held in a very easy to pick chest. Unfortunately, I have no lockpicks, but after talking to the local cook, I found out she's having some issues with one of her chests and she's trying to get the blacksmith to help her. I convinced the blacksmith to let me do it, and all of a sudden I have a couple of lockpicks to my name. So at this point, it's about 30 minutes in real life time to finish this quest, as that timer has been running the whole time. But now I finally have made the potion, gotten all the ingredients, and can run back up to this person to try and save them and progress the quest. Except while this was all going on, the guard shift occurred, so as I'm running up the staircase, I'm blindsided by a completely new guard who I then had to fight my way through. Almost like a final boss enemy guarding that sacred door, but then I was successful and finally arrived with everything I needed to progress this quest. And at this point, I'd been playing for several hours and had totally forgot what I was even doing this all for in the first place. But that journey of exploring around, talking to all these characters, literally exploring the castle, as well as fighting for my life in the process was some of the most fun I've had in a video game in years. When you do this quest, you might end up doing things in a completely different way. It'll be very dependent on what you spec'd into. I relied a ton on stealth to finish that quest, but a better fighter could probably do it easily by just taking out a couple of guards. And tons of the quests in this game are going to be incredibly similar to this. You're going to have that one core objective, steal a book from this building, but how you actually get there, whether it be via speech checks, sneaking in, or really just killing everyone, is left completely open-ended for you. And there are unique interactions on each of those various paths to give you a ton of options forward. That's one of the most powerful aspects of playing Kingdom Come Deliverance. There's always so many choices as to how to progress the next quest. Like in one of the quests, I had to return all the way back to another location to get a tip from an NPC. I really didn't want to do that, so I just wandered around the location only to find the thing I was looking for was hidden in a pile of sacks. At another point, I had to get into this wedding, but my clothes weren't nice enough, something that is surprisingly relatable, so I tried like 10 different methods of making money before eventually just bartering off basically everything I own to finally get into this damn wedding. And a huge part of what makes this work so well is this world is incredibly immersive and reactive. From simple things like the farmer praying at his grave every morning before he starts doing work, to tons of the items around you being completely lootable and able to be interacted with freely. It's a very Bethesda-esque world in that regard, where it really feels like a true sandbox, and probably even more so than most Bethesda games. During a lot of this experimentation and trial and error with different game mechanics, you're going to find out a lot about yourself, what kind of mechanics you enjoy, but also just exploring what this game has to offer. NPCs have a full schedule and will go about their day without you. You'll find them regularly patrolling around, talking to one another, and sometimes this is even based off what recent events occurred that you may have been involved in. But this is very much so a gamified feature. Knowing the NPC schedule or even their preferences is incredibly valuable on some quests and can be completely used by you. And even during many of the quests, the game is amazing at subtlety in details. On this one quest, people are being odd. You can mention sieging a castle to one of the NPCs, and randomly, they don't want to hear anything more about that bloodshed, which just came out of left field. The conversation clearly pivoted at that moment for some reason. Later on, you could potentially find out that a bunch of the local soldiers actually took down a bunch of bandits, and some members were lost in the process. So this NPC was sad because they just lost somebody they were close to, and they don't want to talk about more warfare. That's a completely optional conversation. You could have kind of just missed that aspect and missed her being upset about this. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is a really smart game when it comes to details like that, but almost to a degree that I think will turn some people off, and that is where I suspect most of the division will come. Because Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 can get incredibly intense. Like, I would genuinely recommend playing this game with a notebook at your side, because there are a ton of incredibly important quest details that will only ever be verbally said by an NPC, but otherwise not recorded anywhere. So unless you just remember what that NPC said, and oftentimes there's multiple small details like this that you'll have to remember. Otherwise, it might be a couple of hours of real life time later where you show up to the quest location, you're like, oh yeah, where did he say that book was exactly? If you're not taking notes, there's going to be a lot of information you're just going to lose. That's a very consistent and common part of this game. If you want some of the questing to be easier, you just have to pay attention. And even sometimes that's from optional dialogue giving you further clues and hints as to where you can go. Plus overall, the game is massive and generally difficult. There are a ton of different mechanics, and the mechanics can take a really long time to learn. Even just alchemy feels like one of those systems that can take a good few hours to master. Obviously, if you already used it in Kingdom Come Deliverance 1, that's different, but this game has a ton of systems like that. It really takes time to sink your teeth in and understand what you're doing. And a lot of this is just the simple fact that Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is designed not to be an easy game. There are tutorials and a lot of things to help you along the way, but at the end of the day, if you want to get better at blacksmithing, you just have to get better at aiming with your mouse and timing the hammer strikes. Like, yeah, sure, some of your skills will help this out too, but if you want to make a ton of money blacksmithing, the core of that will just be you actually getting better at this little minigame. And combat is a very similar situation to that. It's very combo and skill dependent, which you'll gradually learn and unlock more abilities over the course of the game, but really at its crux, it's just getting timing down. If you get the timing down, if you get your combos down and no stamina management, you'll be good at combat. So it's one of those weird situations where, yeah, I think some people just won't like this game. They'll like the idea of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, but as you actually have to ride 5 to 10 minutes of in real life time to get to that next city, that's just going to turn some people off who have been used to fast traveling everywhere and following quest markers right up to their intended location, and now having to use their brain to figure that all out is just not their ideal gaming experience. But at least in my opinion, this game is amazing. The way this world can react to what you do, and even some of the things you'll find out about yourself while playing this game is just really unique. Playing Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 has been one of my favorite gaming experiences ever. I would honestly probably put this on my top 5 video games ever played. And of course, this review was kind of formatted in a bit of a weird way. I figured everyone's going to talk about the major visuals, combat changes, and story. And yeah, all that was a ton of fun. I really just have positive things to say. I didn't really encounter many bugs. The game is visually stunning. And while I think the story you experience is more interesting, the story the game tells is also incredibly compelling. The quests in this game are top tier and will suck you in emotionally and even beyond that. But to me, I think it's the stories that you can tell yourself through what you do and what you find that really make Kingdom Come Deliverance feel like a generational title. For those that enjoy it, this is going to be one of those games that you remember for a very long time.